Hey guys, so it's about 9:15 p.m. on a Tuesday night, March 11th, and I am actually hard at work painting a box. Now, this too is also a part of Stitcher's work. We make things that we will use to display our stitching in or on. So yeah, this is not just, stitchers don't just stitch. They also, buy little boxes and they paint them and, use them in different ways for their creations. But yeah, as you can see, I have this wonderful box. It's actually upside down now, but I am working on painting it completely brown. It's gonna take a while because I actually have to disassemble some parts and then put them back together to make sure I don't paint the glass. But actually I have another box here that I got. So these I got from Michael's. These are just like jewelry boxes. So they have glass on top, and so the top opens, and then it also has a drawer. So at the moment I'm working on a special project that's a little bit of a secret. Just kidding. Yeah, I'm not going to reveal it too much, but it's a prototype I'm working on, and I think it's going to turn out great. And I might actually end up making one for myself to have in my house. But yeah, so yeah, I'm going to use it to display the stitching that I'm working on. And actually what I'm doing is, you see these compartments? I actually pulled all those out in the box that I'm already working on. And so that way I have the entirety of the space. And yeah, and I'm also going to use the drawer to store something else. Anyway, I will show that a little later. But the project that I'm working on is a bit of a religious project. I'm working on creating these icon ornaments and also a cross. And actually this evening, so I also at Michael's found these just like basic crosses. And I was like, ooh, I can use that. They were like 99 cents, okay? In their like wood department section. And these boxes, they're super cheap too. Well, if you use the 40% off coupon, they end up being like $5, which is insane. So I bought a couple. I bought a couple of crosses, but I want to show you guys. So initially I started this project by just creating these little ornaments, okay? These little icon ornaments. So here's one of St. Michael. So I used perforated cross-stitch paper, and I stitched the red part, right? And then I cut it out. I put the photo of the icon. I pasted it in there, and then I added some few beads here and also this little cross charm that I also painted gold because it was a brown color for some reason. Oh no, it was silver. I also bought the brown ones, but I painted the silver ones gold. I made them gold. And then I added this little hanging thing by making some beads, by stringing some beads, golden beads. And then I backed it with, so on Amazon, they sell these velvet sheets that you usually see in like on the bottom of jewelry boxes. So they'll use them in jewelry boxes. And the good thing is like they're already like adhesive. So I just bought a whole pack of them with different colors, and this chocolate brown was so beautiful, so I had to use it for this. And I actually ordered just the chocolate brown because I wanted more of it in my stash, because I know I'm going to be making a lot of these, I think. Yeah, so I backed it and like cut it out, and it just turned out so freaking amazing. Look at that. I actually made another one of Theotokos. Maybe I should show you guys that one too. Hold on one second. So same kind of deal. I stitched on perforated paper. I printed a photo of an icon and pasted it in there. Put the cross, backed it with the velvet, and I absolutely love it. I've had this idea for a while, and just made it recently. But anyway, another idea that I had. So for this thing that I'm working on, I'm gonna make a few of these, and I'm gonna since this box is glass, so I'm gonna display a whole bunch on the top, and then in the drawer, I am going to put the cross that I've been making. Okay, so the cross is also gonna have this type of stitching on it. So let me use this as an example. I mean, I'm gonna have to stitch another one of these, and I'm gonna make it obviously without the hanging because I'm gonna paste it on the cross, and it's gonna be an icon of Jesus. But when it's done, it's not 100% finished. I'm still kind of developing it, but it's gonna look like this. Isn't that amazing? So the cross looked like this when I bought it, just a basic cross. And then in my stash, so let me take this off briefly. I had these are intended to be like box corners. So if you have a box or a frame, you would glue these in the corners, and they would just kind of like accentuate the frame or the box. But I had an idea. I was like, I can glue this and, you know, make it into an Orthodox cross. Or, sorry guys, I smudged it a bit. This is going to be repainted. It's just, like I said, it's just a prototype. But yeah, and then I was like, I can also add the stitching that I'm doing without this, clearly. And what I would do is I would glue it like that. And I'm probably gonna put, I only had 3 of these corners. I used up the rest. I would probably put one on the bottom, or if that doesn't look too great, I would make a base for the cross, probably just so, you know, because it's not going to be just sitting in the box. The box is just there, you know, to display it as a gift. So if they want to display it on their in their prayer corner or whatever, it would be able to sit like this. So I might have to go back to Michael's, to their wood section, and see what they have that I might be able to use. So yeah, you know, you got to think out of the box to make the box. Just kidding. So yeah, right now I'm just like, by the way, I don't know about you guys, but every time these clocks change, we all get messed up completely. Me and the kids. I can't sleep, they can't sleep. It's a mess, and it's gonna be a mess for like 2 weeks until we're finally adjusted to this stupid thing that they do every year. I don't know, I hate it, honestly, and I don't see the point to it either. Like, I know they did it when the farmers were farming. Okay, I get it. But nowadays we got electricity everywhere. The farmer doesn't need to depend on the, you know, on the shining of the sun as much. You know, they can just turn their flashlight on and go about their business, you know. So why torture everybody else? Just kidding. But anyway, yeah, so I'm just having fun painting right now. Actually, I hate painting. It's just like, what am I stitching? And I don't know, like, while I'm painting, it's so like, I'm like, the whole time I'm thinking, it's looking ugly, but of course it's not finished. So until it's completely painted, it's gonna look ugly. Yeah, I have so many ideas to do different things, but not enough time. That's the problem. That is the problem that I have to deal with. But this one's gonna turn out great. I'm so happy about it. I'm kind of excited, and I'll probably make a bunch, you know. I'm definitely making one for myself too, because I was gonna make one for myself anyway. You know, the ornaments I actually already kind of started at. I was gonna make the 12 so a whole bunch of these ornaments. I was gonna do all the 12 apostles. I was gonna do Jesus, Theotokos, different saints, and I was gonna have them on my tree during Christmas. But then I had to put a little stop to that to make to do this project that I'm doing. That's gonna go towards a particular event, and hopefully it's gonna turn out okay. I think it will. But we'll see. So yeah, just wanted to kind of show you guys the process. Okay, hope you guys are having a nice week, and check out the other sections, the rest of my stitching that I've done this week, that I'm going to showcase, and the other projects that I finished, and also the poetry section. I'm afraid this video this week is going to be a long one, so not many of you will make it through all the way, but to those of you who do, thank you. And to my kids who might watch it in the future, thank you too, guys, and I love you, and see you in the other section. Hey guys, so I'm back again to do the regular cross stitch video to show you guys things that I've finished recently and things that I'm currently working on. And it's actually the following night, so it's Wednesday, March 12th. I think I'm gonna keep saying the dates, so when my kids rewatch it one day, they'll kind of have a sense of where I was when I was. So yeah, so once again, I've been pretty busy this evening. After the kids had their dinner and they were kind of upstairs chilling in their room and watching TV, whatever, getting ready for bed, I did a little more painting. In the previous video, I showed you guys crosses that I painted. Actually, I painted one yesterday, and I made another one today. So maybe I'm gonna start this portion just to show you the difference between the two. So I went through my stash, and I found more of the corners that I used to decorate the cross I already showed you guys. And these ones were a little bit different, and I think I actually like this version better. So let me compare the two. So here we go. So this is the one I made yesterday. So this is kind of the design of the corners, and I had only 3 left, which kind of worked out to make this one. But then I found these in my stash that I'd completely forgotten about. And I turned them actually the other way around, and I think I like that better. Kind of these things going outward. I don't know, I kind of like both, but I think I'm gonna keep it this way. I don't know, I like it better visually. And then when we put the decoration that's gonna go, it's gonna look like this. Like that, without the hanger. And I really like it. And this morning, while I was out doing grocery shopping, I stopped by Michael's because I was right in that area. And I looked to see what they had in their wood section again. Because I think maybe these crosses, I'm gonna have them kind of sitting on a base like this. So whoever gets one of these, they can, you know, display it in their prayer corner or wherever they're gonna have it. So the only thing that I was really able to find there were these round discs. I do like these. I just wish they were a little bit smaller. They didn't really have anything else, because you see, although I think it's kind of okay. I just don't know how this thing is gonna fit into the box where I'm gonna put the cross with the other ornaments. But we'll see. Maybe I'll look online on Amazon to see what they have for like these wooden pieces. But I think the base needs to be a little bit, actually this is very light wood. This was very easy to carve. It's meant for crafts, right? So it's very lightweight wood. So I don't want it tipping over, you know. I'm gonna have to weigh it somehow. I am gonna paste the velvet sheets that I got. I'm gonna cut it out and put it on the bottom, so that way it'll have more kind of like, it'll have some kind of a grip when it's on the table. But yeah, so I think this is gonna work out. Once again, like that. I will decorate the base. It's not gonna be as plain as it is now. But it's work in progress and it's turning out so cool. I am really liking it. I think you can usually get these like it's called metal lace. So I'm gonna get some metal lace and I'm gonna glue it all around the base. I'm gonna paint it gold, just like I painted this. And then the top, I will keep brown. Yeah, I like the size of this base. I think base, I think it's a good size. I don't think it should be smaller. And then, you know, people can put any other little icons that they want to put under. Actually, let me bring one over so I can show it as an example how that will look. Where did I put that one? So these are common little icons you can get at your churches. I actually received this one, gosh, from a family friend more than 25 years ago. Actually, she was my grandmother's good friend. They were neighbors. And when I was visiting one year back in Bosnia, before I left, she got me a few gifts, and this was one of them. Yeah, which I still have. So let me see how I can, so if people want to, you know, have their prayer corner, see, it'll work very well. That's not good. Kind of knew that was going to happen. Like that. Yay. So it's working out slowly but surely. My prototype is working out, and you know, once I have it figured out, what works, what's going to look good, if I want to make more, it's going to be a lot more streamlined and I can make them real quick. But while I'm kind of like figuring things out, it's taking a little longer than I would like. Okay, so this project out of the way. Next, I want to show you guys things that I finished recently. Well, within the last few months. And I know that for the rest of this week, I'm just gonna keep making these things. So I'm not gonna be doing anything else. That's why I'm recording this video earlier in the week, because I already know what I'm gonna be working on. But yeah, so the first project I'm gonna show you guys is this really cool snow globe that I made. Now, this was a kit. The designer who designed the cross stitch, her name is Brenda Gervais, and she's extremely popular among the cross stitchers. Everybody knows about her within this community. She makes some amazing designs, and we love stitching her stuff. So she designed this snow globe thing a couple of years ago, and I purchased the kit last year, I believe, that came with the chart, with the linen, threads, and this wooden snow globe thing that you would then, once you're done with the stitching, you would put together, you would glue everything together, and you would mount your cross stitch on. Okay, so here it is. This is the thing that I ended up making. It's just a sweet little snowman. So the stitching portion, I actually completed last year. As soon as I got the kit, I was so excited. I thought it was the cutest thing ever. So I took it out immediately and I stitched it. And then I wasn't really feeling like putting the globe together. You know, I want to stitch something else. So I put the stitching away I hung it and I put it in my closet. And then this year I was like, wait a minute, I have that thing that I started but I never finished. Let me take it out. So I took out the pieces, the wooden pieces, and I sandwiched them all together, glued them with the wood glue, and then I mounted this on a foam board, put this sweet little trim, and finished it off, and I absolutely love it. And my kids love it, and it's the cutest thing ever. So I will have this displayed, you know, wintertime, kind of after all the holidays are over and it's still kind of winter and you put all the Christmas decorations away and now you want to put something else and you can decorate with this kind of stuff. Yeah, so this is one. Although I think I'm gonna put one more thing. There are these little like Tim Holtz is a scrapbook designer, but he makes these like metal tags with different holiday sayings and things. I've had a hard time finding his winter ones. I think they're like sold out. But anyway, I'm kind of hoping I'll be able to find it and then just mount one of those metal tags here. I think it'll make it a little more complete. But yeah, I love this one. Again, designer Brenda Gervais. And I think it's just called Snow Globe, if anybody's interested. Okay, so that's one thing I finished, fully finished. And then another thing that I stitched by Brenda Gervais, and I did this in January of this year. So I wanted to be ready for Easter. So she had this, this was also a kit that I purchased, I think at the same time I purchased this. It came out with the chart and I believe this linen. Anyway, it's these eggs. Basically, you would stitch these eggs. So it came as a trio. Now they're not fully finished yet because I need to stuff them and I need to sew them, sew the ends. But anyway, this was the egg that we needed to stitch. So it has these cute little bunnies on it and just flowers, and it's very cute and I love the colors. And then it also came with this fabric where you would make these kind of like secondary eggs that would kind of be just extra accents if you want to display them in the bowl, which I will do. So yeah, I sewed them together with my sewing machine. It's not perfect, but once I stuff it, it's gonna even out. And I absolutely love how it turned out. But now that I've seen how this turned out, I want to come up with my own designs for eggs, Easter eggs. And I think once I'm finished with the ornaments and stuff, if there's still time before Easter, I might try, I might do like my own little design and make another set of these, but we'll see, time permitting. If not, I'll plan it for next year. Anyway, but I will show you guys once I stuff these. I am going to do them next week. I'll stuff them, sew them, display them, and I'll show you guys how that turned out. But for now, it's not a full finish, it's just a finish. Okay. All right, that's one. Another finish that I did recently is a pattern by a designer. Her company is called Heartstrings Samplery, and she did this really cool heart in hand design. And yeah, I will show you guys. I finished it, but not fully finished it because I don't know if I want to frame it or if I want to turn it into a pillow. probably a pillow because it's small enough. But yeah, it's again, heart in hand design, and I call it hands to work, hearts to God. So basically, it represents different skin colors, different races of people around the world, and their hearts and hands reaching out to God, symbolically, in my mind. So I really love how it turned out. I didn't follow any of the recommended colors that she chose. I just went through my stash, picked what I thought I wanted to use, and made it my own. And I really love how it turned out. And I also used gold thread, which is pain in the butt to work with and sew with because it's very coarse and rough. But the effects you get, you see the sparkle. So I was able to stitch the rings and kind of like details in the sleeve of each hand. So yeah, love this one. And yes, I think I'll turn it into a pillow, and then I'm gonna like a crochet. I saw this tutorial how to crochet a fancy border, like a lace type of border. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make it a delicate kind of finish, probably with white or creamy, probably white because the linen's already cream. White thread, and I'll make a lace border, and it's gonna be real cool. All right, so that's that one. And then this last one is a biggie where, well, it's a medium, but it took a while. It took about a month to do. And this is by the designer called Quaint Rose Studios or Designs or something like that. It's actually, if you watch my previous video, she's the designer of the cross that I'm in the process of stitching. But this piece, I actually dedicated to my maternal grandparents. And funny enough, the poem that I'm gonna read in the next section that I've written about my grandfather, and I'm gonna tell you guys the whole story behind that, kind of fits in with this. Because I made it for my grandfather that I wrote about, and also my grandmother. And I like doing that. I like when I finish a cross stitch, I like personalizing it that way, like dedicating it to something or someone. So this one I dedicated to them, to my grandparents, and I'm going to show you guys now. And I only have to finish one more small thing, and that is the dates of when they lived in this place, like from when to when. I asked my mom, and she gave me the date of when they moved in, when they finished building their house. But she forgot the date when my grandmother sold the house before she moved in with my aunt. Because she couldn't live on her own anymore. So she sold her property at that point and moved in with her. All right, so this is the piece, and I love it. Okay. I will show you guys the details in a minute. But yeah, for this one, I used obviously one color, which I actually love doing. And I used the hand-dyed linen, and I absolutely love it. So the names that you guys see there, so actually you can see, actually let me show the details now, and then I'll talk about it. So here we have the alphabet. Now in retrospect, I wish I'd stitched a Serbian alphabet, but that's okay. you know, because after I finished stitching, I only decided to dedicate this to them after I was done stitching most of it. So, and there's no way that I'm gonna unpick all of this and, you know, go in and stitch. No, that's not gonna happen. I'm done with this one. Too many other things to stitch. But yeah, so here's the alphabet and the numbers, which is, so the thing about cross stitch, especially samplers, so the history behind samplers is that long time ago, when little girls went to school, the way that they would learn their alphabet, their numbers, is by stitching it on linen. So they were killing two birds at once. They were learning their alphabets and numbers at the same time that they were learning how to stitch. So they were being double productive. And little girls, like, you know, anywhere from age 6 to, you know, 16, actually probably like 12, would do this kind of work. And when you guys look at some of the historical stitches, these little girls, masterpieces. I mean, what a 6-7-year-old girl could do back then with the linen and a thread was absolutely amazing. I mean, the levels of creativity, skill, with a minimal amount. These were poor girls usually. I mean, rich women stitched too, but usually poor girls in, you know, little schools that were adjacent to churches. You know, they would get 1 or 2 colors and a raggedy piece of cloth, and they would create masterpieces. And this is exactly the reason why I love this primitive style of stitching, is because, you know, they had to be super creative. And they created masterpieces. But anyway, so let me go show you guys some more detail. So this is the second alphabet in this kind of fancy script. And then just a pretty diamond border. And then we come to the birds and this wreath. And within the wreath is the name of a suburb and a town, which within that suburb was where my grandparents lived. So Tukovi, Prijedor, is where they lived in Bosnia. And I also stitched their initials, M and I. So my grandmother's name was Mara, and my grandfather's name was Ivo, so short for Ivan, Ivo. And then there's this really cool cow. Well, they had a lot of animals. They had animals, not a lot, but, you know, they would have a couple of cows and pigs and chickens and things like that. So I just love that there was a cow here. And after I stitched the cow, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a piece for my grandparents. So yeah, and just these like fancy matching floral bouquets on each end of the cow. So I absolutely love this. I am so happy that I'm almost done with it. And I will professionally frame this because it will be an heirloom piece that one day I will pass down to my kids. And the way I want to display it is I want to have it somewhere on my wall with a picture of my grandparents displayed either underneath or above the cross stitch, so that way my kids can know who this is for. Anyway, so that is everything that I'm going to show you guys today. I am happy that I've been able to stitch all of this, or most of this, so far this year. You know, bigger pieces, they take longer time, and I kind of like to, you know, stitch a big piece And then I'm so tired of stitching the same thing all the time. And then I'll do a couple of little pieces because I like having finishes. I don't like to just stitch. I like to have a complete product that I can put on my shelf. And I don't know, there's just something satisfying about that, completing something in its entirety without having it lingering around too much in a box or on a hanger. But yeah, okay, so since this video is probably going to be too long, I'm not going to go too actually the next section that I make, the poetry one, that one's going to be a little bit long, guys, because I'm going to read the poem first, and then I'm going to tell you guys a story behind that poem. But not right now. I'm going to do that tomorrow because I'm tired and I should probably go to bed soon and maybe do more of the crafty stuff until bed. So yeah, thank you guys for watching again, and see you in the next section. Bye-bye. Hey guys, so I am back for the poetry portion of the video. It's the next day, so it's Thursday. And yeah, today's has been a little bit of a mess. I have been so tired. I have no idea why. Actually, I do have an idea. It's the stupid clock change, and I feel like I'm on like jet lagged. Like that's how it feels. Like I keep going to bed later than I usually do, and then I end up like waking up super early for some reason. So yeah, it's just the adjustment's gonna take a while. So I think because of that, I had a nap around 4 p.m. From 4 p.m. to about 6:30. But it was the worst nap of my life. It was one of those naps where like feels like you're walking on a razor's edge. You're not asleep, but you're not awake. You're just kind of like somewhere in between, and it's awful. That's like the worst, and I feel like that makes you even more tired. And just anyway, I don't know. Anyway, so I've been a bit of a mess today, and I hate it because I had so many plans, so many things I wanted to get done. None of them got done, and it's just one of those days that I hate when it's like that, but it is what it is. Anyway, since this is gonna be a little bit of a longer video anyway, and I'm not in the best mood for making one, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I'm not gonna have time tomorrow, and I want to post this on Fridays. I think the way I'm gonna do it from now on, I'm gonna read the poem first. So, and today I'm gonna tell a story that's associated with that poem. So for those people who don't want to hear the story because it's gonna be a little bit long, they can hear the poem first. Now, this poem I drafted this past Monday. Oh no, my kids are still awake. Sorry guys. I'm really hoping they're not gonna be yelling and screaming for me. Or Tim. They've been doing that like every night. There's always something they need. I want water. I gotta go pee. I gotta do that. Just go to bed. Anyway, I got a little bit mad at them earlier because they were giving us some trouble with shower time again. Anyway. So I'm hoping they'll take me seriously. Yeah, I'm like the only disciplinarian in this house because those of you who know Tim is very even. He never gets mad. He never gets too happy. He's always like, he's a constant, which is great, you know, because I'm not. I'm like, woo, woo. But when it comes to kids, like, nothing bothers him. Like, they could be destroying the house. Nothing moves him. Like, I don't understand this. This guy is like in perpetual meditative state that we all want to aspire to, like some sort of next level of calmness. Yeah, I'm not there. I'm definitely not there. Yeah, I'm up and then I'm real down. Yeah, so he keeps me adrift in that way. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so I was gonna say something about this poem. So this poem that I drafted is a poem about my grandfather, and I drafted this poem this past Monday. It was a beautiful day. I picked up the kids from school at 2:30, and then we just decided to stay in the park for the next 3 hours because it was really nice. And while I was sitting on the bench there, I wasn't really feeling that social that day. I mean, how many conversations can you have about weather and what your kids did that week, like before you're sick and tired of it, you know what I mean? But that's the gist of all the mom conversations in the park, and I just didn't want to have any of it. So I had my music in my ears, and I was just sitting on the bench there, and I was listening to this playlist, just like a random playlist. Like, actually no, I was like listening to the song that was part of a playlist. So after that song was done, a new song came on, and I've never heard this song before. Like, I've heard of the band. It's called Type Zero Negative. It's a goth band, and it's of the vampire genre, which is kind of, it's one of those genres that's like really sassy, sexy, you know, deep voices, and these guys like really want to be vampires. And this guy, I think his name is Peter Steele. Unfortunately, he passed away. He's got this like deep voice, like really manly stuff going. and he's got the long, and like he really embodies like the vampire, you know, thing. Like that was his line, okay? And the song was pretty good, actually. It took me a moment to adjust to his voice. I was like, what is this? But it was really good then. But anyway, the name of the song was Wolf Moon. And I had an experience during this past Wolf Moon, which happened on January 13th. So this experience that I had, which I can't even talk about because I'm trying to write about it. It's one of those experiences that only happen to you a few times in your lifetime. And you know it's coming from the divine. So yeah, it happened to me in January. Night between, so 12th, the night of 12th, because it was my daughter's birthday, January 12th. So that night, going into the 13th, going into the full moon, which is called, it's a first full moon in January, and it's called the Wolf Moon. So I had that experience then. So this song comes on, it's called Wolf Moon, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh shit, that thing I experienced. And all of a sudden, I keep getting these words in my, like popping in my mind. And that's how poetry happens to me. I'll just get a stream of words. They're not necessarily related yet, but it's just words. And I have to write them down real fast. And after I've written them down real fast, I then go and string them together, almost like making a necklace, like a pearl necklace. So you have all these little individual pearls, and then you're going to put them together in a certain way, and they will describe the experience that you intend to describe. So that's how it is for me. And another aspect of this writing process that happens to me is, let's say I was listening. Sometimes I listen to music and I'll get inspired. Not necessarily by the song, by the words in the song, but by the tone. So by the vibrations of the song or the mood of the music. Not the words necessarily, but the music. So when I write, and if I'm on a certain train of thought, I can't go onto another song and continue that train of thought. I have to replay this song again and again and again and again until I feel like I've finished that train of thought. So for those 3 hours that I was there on that bench, I think I replayed this song 20 plus times because I didn't want to put a stop to this train of thought. And then as I was sitting there and kids were kind of getting bored, they wanted to go home and they kept badgering me every 5 minutes and I was getting annoyed. I'm like, stop interrupting. I'm like, on to something here. Finally, I was like, I'm just gonna have to stop this because it's time to go home. Oh, but so I started off writing about this experience, so this wolf moon experience that I had. And then as I was writing about that experience, all of a sudden, I started thinking about the thoughts I had in a few days earlier. So a few days earlier, as I was kind of like going throughout my day, I had these thoughts of my grandfather popping into my head. You go about your day and all of a sudden I would like start thinking about my grandfather. And my grandfather passed away more than 20 years ago. And I was very attached to my grandfather, so I will tell that story later. But yeah, as I was going about my day, and I think I also had a dream that weekend, so, but I'm not sure 100%. I think I had a dream, but I also had thoughts earlier in the day of him. It's almost like, when you go about your day and it's almost like these thoughts are coming, it's almost like unconscious into conscious. You're not really intentionally thinking about this person, or they're like coming on their own, these thoughts. And then you're kind of focused on them. Anyway, I hope this makes sense. So yeah, I had these thoughts about my grandfather. And then as I was listening to the song in the park and I drafted this first poem, The Wolf Moon Experience, all of a sudden I felt inspired to write about my grandfather's passing. And when I went to see him, in the open casket and the funeral. So once again, it's just words. So words kept popping into my head and I was writing them down fast. And they became a poem. Now, this is only a draft so far because I intend to flesh this out. So I want to describe more of the details of these 3-4 days that I spent in Bosnia burying my grandfather. And yeah, I really want to honor him through this. So yeah, I'm gonna read that now, and because these videos are mostly for my kids, I'm just kind of letting you guys ride along because I got no secrets. You know, I don't mind if people know a little bit about me. But since these videos are mostly for my kids, I'm going to tell them some stories about my grandfather because he meant so much to me. But anyway, let me read this poem. Once again, it is a draft that I will expand on. But I think it's pretty good so far. I think I have a general idea of a direction where I want to go with this poem. And it will take a long time, you know. Poems, the only thing, you know, when you write poetry and, you know, you're always in a different emotional space with every poem. So the emotional space that I was in when I was writing this, you might not be able, probably will not be able to recreate again. But you do have a certain memory left over of that moment, of that emotional space that you were in when you were writing. So you can try and recall that, but it's never going to be exact and it's never going to be as deep. So that's just how it is, you know. We can't fully recreate emotional states or emotional spaces that we were in when we were in, you know, fully. Anyway, so let me read it. So I think I'm just gonna simply call this poem Grandfather. You know, sometimes you don't need fancy titles. And usually the most beautiful poems that you'll ever read are the poems that are the simplest. They use the simplest words, the simplest descriptions, but everybody can relate to them, you know. This poem might not be that because it is specific to my experience. But, you know, hopefully the descriptions will evoke something in someone. You know, that's always the hope. But when I write for myself. I don't necessarily think of the wider audience all the time, because my poems are always very personal. So they're experiences I've had. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about the reader. And I don't know how should so and kind of the beautiful thing about poetry in general is once you write something and you put it out there, that poem's not yours anymore, because the reader goes in, they read the poem, that poem gets channeled through their filters of experience, life experience, emotion. So once that poem's read and channeled through somebody else, that poem becomes theirs. And that's a beautiful thing about poetry because it takes on so many different lives. You know, it started with you, and then when somebody else hears it or reads it, it'll be theirs. So at the end of the day, it's just a collection of words put together. And it's the reader's emotions that are gonna, and interpretations that are gonna make it into something else every single time. So I don't think we can say that necessarily about every form of writing, especially like technical or, you know, But poetry does that most, yeah, most of the time. Anyway, that's still something I'm thinking through. All right, let me read the poem. Yeah, here we go. Let's see if I can read it without stumbling on my words. Because people tell me I don't. Most of the time they cannot detect an accent, but I have an accent, and a lot of the times I stumble on my words. Anyway, let's keep going. Grandfather. Last night, I was communing with my grandfather, cold in his grave, but shining like a lantern beyond the veil. With my inward eye, I summoned up the day, the moment I whispered my last goodbye, thanking him for the dreams that came in threes, when his soul hovered like a gentle hand, patting the top of my head, anointing it in comfort. Love was there, peace too, the day I saw him, prostrate like a statue, waxy and pale, adorned with a few precious possessions, the wristwatch and his best cap, the suit that he wore to church every Sunday religiously. He was glowing, and I was at peace as my soul mourned and tears transformed into steam, revealing me a ghost that stood by his grave, a fragment of his makeup still persisting on this earthly realm. Okay, so that is my draft. So far I'm very happy about it. I kind of get the general idea, general direction that I'm going to go in. And I'm just going to keep fleshing it out. I will try and do my best to do my grandfather justice with this poem. Anyway, okay, so kind of debating if I should read the Wolf Moon one. I'm not ready for that yet. That experience was amazing, and it was it confirms so many of notions about God, spirituality that I already knew, but that came in with a wider scope into me. And I clearly was able to see the kind of spiritual warfare that we're in. Now, I know a lot of you will not believe in that, you know, if you're not a spiritual or a religious person, but boy, is it a reality. Anyway, I'm going to stop there because if I keep going, I might sound a little bit like a cuckoo lady. But this is real to me, and yeah. Anyway, but next, I want to tell you guys some stories about my grandfather, and also about his passing. And yeah, okay, so this is my maternal grandfather. Um, and he was really the grandparent that I bonded with the most. When I was a little girl, I was very tomboyish, so I only played with my male cousins because they were so, interesting, and they always played outside, and I had zero interest in dolls or anything girly at that point in my life. I just want to be outside and, do fun stuff. And my cousins did all that, so, And when I would go for sleepovers to my grandparents' house, I was always shadowing my grandfather. So I was like his little shadow following him around, seeing what he was up to, feeding the animals or going into the garden or chopping the wood or whatever he was doing. Yeah. And I think he kind of enjoyed it too, my grandfather. The funny thing is, like, my grandfather, it's kind of like my husband. I'm just gonna say. So he was very, like, an even, like, in his mood and stuff. At least with us grandkids. He never got angry. He never, shouted at us. It was just always, like, even Steven, I guess it's a lot of the guys are like, men are like that, It's us women who are more unpredictable due to our monthly cycles. It just, if you want us to reproduce, we got to go through this, okay? These moods up and down, it's normal, man, okay? It is normal. I hate how, like, media tries to portray it like it's something, we women got to deal with. Well, no, we don't. It's just how it is, We're a little bit crazy and certain times of the month, and most of the time we're okay, It's just how it is, And we change so much during the month, and men don't, because they don't need to give birth, or be able to give birth, conceive and give birth. Anyway, you all know this. Why am I even saying it? But anyway, so yeah, my grandfather was very, like, even. His mood never changed much. He was like, always a nice guy. So yeah, like, when I would follow him around, I don't think he ever really minded, even though I got into a lot of trouble. So there was this one time I remember. So every year in my country, like, it's just a cultural thing. So people would usually slaughter pigs right before Christmas, late fall, and they would, prepare the meat and everything. Nothing was ever wasted to have for the following year, to feed yourself. So you'd make sausages and, like, all kinds of other things, right? Freeze them and you have the food. So during one of these days when they had the slaughtering of the pig, my grandfather would usually have quite a few of his friends come over, and, they would help him with the process, and my grandmother would be there, and my mom, and, we would all kind of be outside, and everybody had a job to do, to process the meat and everything. But as kids, we would usually be on the sidelines waiting for czwartzi to eat. And this is the czwartzi is, I know there's a word in English for it, but I keep forgetting it. It's basically the fat of the pig that you deep fry, and, it was the best thing ever, especially when it's coming out fresh, So we kids would be sitting around and just waiting for it, Or if they were roasting the pig, you'd be sitting there wasting, because all you want to eat is the pig ear and the skin, right? Because that's the crunchiest part. Even though I haven't eaten any pig in like 20 years, because I don't eat pork anymore, but the memory of the taste is, good stuff. Anyway, so, as they were slaughtering the pig, and, men drank, so the beer train was going around. Me and this one kid who was my age at the time, we were buddies. We snuck one of the beers away, and we went around the house, and we were gonna drink the beer. You know, it's gonna be our first time tasting alcohol. We were so sneaky. We got the full bottle. We opened it and we're like, you know, we're gonna drink some beer. Okay, we drank the beer. We were sitting. So my grandparents had a little garden in behind their house, and then a big garden in front of, like, kind of like that way in. So we were sitting in this little garden, hiding away, and we were drinking little by little. And all of a sudden, the wooziness came in, because I've never drank anything alcohol before. So I was maybe 7. I think I was maybe 6, 7 years old. I got so drunk, you guys, drunk off my ass, that I fell asleep in the spot where we were drinking. I don't even know what happened to that kid. I don't even know if he fell asleep or if he went away. I just know that I fell asleep in that garden. And after I fell asleep, for about 45 minutes to an hour, my parents were, everybody who was there was freaking out. Where's Maya? Nobody could find Maya, okay? To the point where they thought that I was kidnapped by the gypsies. Holy shit. Pardon my word. So these people lost their heads looking for me for about an hour, and finally somebody remembered to go into the back garden. And as they went there, they saw me just kind of like asleep, fully asleep in the garden. Oh my God. They woke me up. I'm still woozy, okay? I still have no freaking idea where I am, what I am. I just know that later on I got some, you know, got a little spanking and yelling at. But anyway, but the point of the story is that my grandfather was supposed to be watching me. But that didn't happen. So yeah, I got into, so it's this kind of trouble that I would often get in when I would be with my grandfather. You know, always pulling some kind of shenanigans where he was supposed to watch me, but it wasn't really, and you know, that kind of thing. So that's one funny story that I think my kids might like. And then the second story I want to tell that's a little more sad and serious is the story that I'm trying to, or parts of it. I'm not going to describe the whole experience, but it's, I want to describe the passing of my grandfather. And so like I said, my grandfather passed away a long time ago. So a couple of years after we moved to the United States. And he ended up passing away on the same day that his cousin passed away. So what happened is that morning, my grandparents got a phone call from their relative saying that their cousin was struck by a car while he was on his bicycle, and he passed away. And this cousin, before the war, they actually used to live a few houses down from us. Because this neighborhood where my grandparents lived, it was mostly populated by people who were related to each other. So we were all one big family, related somehow, okay? Most of the people's last names there were Komljenovic, you know, because that was my grandfather's last name, my mom's maiden name. So yeah, they were all related. They all knew each other since birth, basically. And this guy and my grandfather, they were like that, you know. But then during the war, a lot of these people moved away to Croatia. So this guy, while living in Croatia, he ended up, you know, because the way people drive in my country is so reckless. And a lot of people die in car accidents. So anyway, he ended up passing. My grandfather got the full phone call. He was so distraught that day. but in a way that, men are distraught in a way where they don't really show it outwardly, We women do. But a lot of times men don't. They kind of bottle it in. So he was kind of, my grandmother, she thought, okay, he's sad, but, he's handling it well. And my grandfather, he's like, well, I'm going to go into town and I am going to go have a haircut because I need to go to the funeral. My grandmother's like, why are you going for a haircut? Who cares? Like, he's like, no, I need to go for a haircut. So he gets on his bicycle and he goes and he does get his haircut. And I'm pretty sure while he was having that haircut, he was feeling a lot. He was feeling deeply, He was grieving. He was in shock. And when he came back, he got off his bicycle. And as he was walking into the house, well, actually before then, when he was coming back, he couldn't even bike anymore because a few neighbors saw him pushing his bike home, and he was feeling a little, they said that he wasn't steady on his feet, So as he walked into the house, literally went up the stairs, walked through the front door, he collapsed. And my grandmother ran up to him, and basically he ended up having a heart attack and passing away. From grief, from being distraught, from the depth of his emotions that he was feeling towards losing his friend, his cousin. And he passed away. And the day he passed away, my parents got the phone call. And then I got the phone call. And that day I was actually at work. So I was, 16, maybe 17 years old. I don't even remember right now. And it was one of the first jobs I had. I was actually working in TJ Maxx at a jewelry counter. But that day, I remember I was working at the register because I know everything about that day. So, but the funny thing, before my father called me at work to tell me, I was actually thinking about my grandfather and my grandmother because it was right before Christmas. And I was thinking about, they're going to be alone for the Christmas, and we're going to be over here, and it's just going to be sad. And while we were living in Bosnia, Christmas was always the most special time, at least in my mind, because I knew that my grandparents would take me to church. And church was a special time, okay? So every weekend I would go to sleep over without fail on a Sunday morning. We would put our nice clothes on and we would go to church. And we would prancy down the road, in our nice clothes. And we would get there and, everybody knew everybody, and everybody was always showing off a little bit, You know how it goes, okay? But those walks, so basically my grandparents lived in this suburb, right? So the walk to the church was maybe 30 minutes, okay? So it was a 30-minute walk, and we would walk down the road. But to get to the church, you would have to walk through the main street of the town where everything was kind of happening, So my grandparents were Catholic, okay? So every Sunday morning, as when we would walk down, all the Catholic people, you had to walk through the main street to get to the church. So I think everybody knew, it's like all these people walking down this road. Oh, there's those Catholics, going down the road, and they're gonna go to their church or whatever. But we were always like, prancing down and feeling fine, Anyway, it was a special time, okay? And usually my grandfather would actually go on a bicycle, so he wouldn't walk with us. He would ride on his bicycle because he knew as soon as the service was done, he wanted to be back home as soon as possible and get to the cows and get to the sheep. Whereas my grandmother and all the other friends who would join along the way to walk together, and me, their granddaughter, we would walk, we would walk to get there. And so, yeah, those were special times because my parents weren't, my mom was brought up religious, but my dad wasn't. Even though my dad's side of the family, they were all Orthodox, during communism. So my dad's dad was an officer, right? And so if you were any kind of military, you had to be in the party. And if you were in the party, they frowned upon you going to church, okay? Like, it wasn't going to happen. So anyway, so my dad wasn't really brought up, he was when he was little. His grandparents would, because they had a saint day. So Svätý Jovan was their saint that they honored. But, through my father, through his father, never carried on the tradition. So anyway, that's another story. But so yeah, we would get to the church, and for me, like, just the whole experience, being with the group of friends that you knew, your community, and just everything, the incense, the prayers, the choir, it was everything. So as I was thinking about my grandparents and, how we weren't going to be together again, probably like, for Christmas, that was sad to me. So I was thinking about them. And 5 minutes after I was thinking that, my father calls and he's like, Maya, I have to tell you something. I was like, what? Why are you calling? I'm working. He's like, yeah, you're going to have to sit down. I'm like, why? He's like, you're going to have to sit down. Because, my dad knew how attached I was to my grandfather. And he's like, your grandfather passed away. And I just remember just like something came over my eyes. It wasn't black or anything like that. It was like a fog. And from that point on, for the next few days, my mind was in a fog. I was not fully there anymore. So my dad's like, hey, I'm gonna come pick you up. You're gonna have to tell your work that you're going home early and that you're not gonna be able to come into work for the next week because we're flying tomorrow morning. I was like, huh? What? Like I said, the fog. I was like, okay. So I managed to understand what he said. So I go to my boss and I tell them, they're like, yeah, no problem. We understand. And my dad's like, okay, I'll pick you up. I'll be there in 10 minutes or 15, whatever. I was like, okay. So what happens next is I go to the wrong door to wait for my father without even realizing it because I'm fogged up. So my dad comes and he can't find me. Now remember the story where I fell asleep in the garden and they couldn't find me? Well, this is a similar kind of thing, right? So this kind of trouble. Anyway. So he couldn't find me. So he waited there for an hour. At the same time, I'm waiting for him at another door for an hour. So he waited, I waited. He got sick of waiting. He's like, I don't know where the hell she is. I hope she makes it, but I gotta go. So he leaves because he's like, oh, where did she go? And at that point he's like, well, maybe she just took the bus. He's freaking out a little bit, but he's like, she'll be okay. She's I was a mature teenager, I was actually way too serious when I was a teenager. So they knew I wasn't going to do anything crazy like that, you know. So he leaves, and I've been waiting there for an hour, like, and I'm like, where the hell is he? So I go back into the store, and I was like, hey guys, can I use the phone? Like, I'm waiting for my dad, and he's not here. And they're like, oh yeah, your dad was here, and he was here a long time. Where were you? I was like, what? They're like, yeah, he left. I was like, oh shit. So I called my dad. I was like, hey dad, hey, where are you? So I'm like, all like, hey, you know, like, I don't know what's going on. He's like, where are you? Where were you? I was like, oh, you know, I'm here. What's taking so long? He's like, well, I was there, and he's like angry at this point. He's like, well, now you're gonna have to take the bus because I'm not coming and picking you up. So I take the bus, and I get home somehow, and basically the next day we fly out and we go to Bosnia to be with my grandmother and all the other cousins and aunts and uncles who by that time all arrived and were getting things ready for the funeral. So when we got there, the first thing I remember is walking into the room. So my grandparents had a fairly small house, kind of like the size of my house, which is like, what, 1,000 square feet, a little bit under. Small house, and I walk in there into the kitchen / living room. And the first picture that I remember seeing is a sea of black. So in the Balkans, when somebody dies and people are mourning, we don't wear white, pink, yellow, blue. We all wear black, okay? So as I walked into the room, I saw a sea of black and these white, drained looking faces, okay? So I was walking into the death room, okay? So even though it's like a whole bunch of bats copulated together in this one place, that's the only way I can describe it, and death is in there, you know what I mean? Like, you really feel the heaviness. And even though you didn't feel like crying in that morning, seeing this, the tears are coming, okay? So I walk in, I see this thing, and I'm like bawling, okay? My eyes are, we're all hugging and like, oh, it's okay. You know, I'm not it's like at this point I can laugh at it. In that moment, it wasn't funny, obviously. It was grief. But now, as I recall those pictures, those moments, it's what it is. You know, an outsider who would be coming in, they would have the same funny response to it. Anyway, so I walked into this room full of Batman and bad women. And it's sad, you know, and I got to eat a little bit. I just knew I couldn't eat the whole time I was there, okay? So they forced me to eat. And the next thing I remember is that for the next 3 nights that I was sleeping there, I had dreams. And all 3 of those dreams were dreams of my grandfather. Basically saying goodbye in different ways. So I actually recall 2 of the dreams. The first night, the second night dream, I don't remember, but I did write it down in my childhood journal. But I think that journal is at my mom's house. And I don't know why I don't remember that second dream. But the first one I remember, not in its entirety, but I remember it. I remember the key moments of it. But the third and the final dream is going to be etched in my mind forever. Okay, so that was the most impactful dream. Okay, so the first dream, the first night that I was sleeping there, I was actually sleeping. So at one point during the war, we moved from the city, from the downtown where we had an apartment. We moved to live with my grandparents because it was hard finding food in the war, especially if you lived in a city. So the fact that my grandparents had a farm and basically were independent of a grocery store, we moved in with them, not only to help them, you know, work the farm, but, you know, to be able to eat. So we lived with them. And then for a couple of years, they actually moved to Croatia before coming back. And we stayed in that house to make sure nobody else moved in, because that was happening, unfortunately. Anyway, that's another story. So I was actually sleeping in the bedroom. Oh no, my kids are... I think I might have to pause the video. It's 9 p.m. and they're still messing about. One moment, please. I hate doing this, but I have to. Hey guys, sorry about that interruption. It's actually almost 10 o'clock and they're finally asleep, so, oh boy. This took a while. But anyway, I'm gonna try and remember where I paused. I think I was trying to tell about the dreams. Let's see if I can get back to it. Okay, so we arrived there, and the next 3 nights I was gonna have dreams in which I was either seeing my grandfather or seeing and saying goodbye to him. Okay, so the first night I was there, I slept in my childhood room, on the bed that I used to sleep when I used to live there. And in the first dream, so while I was sleeping in that room, on that bed, in my dream, I am in that room, sleeping on that bed, okay? But next to the bed where I'm sleeping in the dream is a nightstand, and on that nightstand is a picture, okay? So as I'm in the bed and I'm looking at the picture, the picture is of a person whose face keeps morphing into different expressions. So it was basically a picture of my grandfather, and his face keeps changing, okay? So one minute it's happy, the next minute it's sad. So all the different emotions, okay? And just keeps muting into different expressions, okay? So that's what I remember from that dream. The second night, like I said, I don't remember that dream, but I will try and find that journal because I want to know for my own. I want to recall it. But the third night, and the night before the funeral, this dream left such a deep impression on me as a teenager. So in this dream, so in this city where we lived in, so you know how every city has a town square. So in this town square, there was this big store that was, I think it was built during communism, where before the war, it was like a little mall, okay? You would go in there and there were different stores where you can buy different things, okay? And it was like a staple of the city square, you know? But during the war, that place was abandoned. It was empty for a long time. So there's that store in the center of the square, and going around like in a belt formation is a road, okay, where cars could drive. So store, road, and then across the road are these little restaurants, okay, little cafes, and there's like this hotel thing, and also like a wedding venue that people used to have weddings in. I remember going to a wedding there when I was a child. So, okay, so there's a square. So my grandfather, in the dream, my grandfather is standing on his own in front of this little mall, okay? And across the street is standing my entire family. So include pretty much everybody, including aunts, uncles, all the cousins, people that I've only seen once in my life. For some reason, all of us, I'm in the dream, I'm seeing everybody. We are all standing across the street from my grandfather, kind of like one next to the other, okay? We're all kind of bunched up together, and I'm there too. So as we're standing there, I look across the street and I'm like, oh, grandfather, you know? So I'm seeing him, and I'm like turning to everybody else and I'm like, hey guys, grandpa is right there. You guys see him? Nobody is responding. So nobody's seeing him. Everybody's just kind of like standing there as though they're just waiting, okay? They're just kind of looking around, waiting. I'm like, hey guys, look, he's right there. Okay, so nobody's seeing him. So I'm the only one seeing him, okay, in the dream. So as I realize that, I separate myself from this group of people. So we're all kind of standing like this, and I kind of take a few steps forward, okay? So I'm standing in front of these people, and I'm looking directly at my grandfather. And as I'm looking at him, I see that his face, he just looks extremely sad. So he is indescribably sad, okay? So as I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh no, look how sad he is. And we start communicating, but we're not communicating through words. We're communicating through thoughts, okay? So I'm not saying anything, I'm just kind of transmitting. And he's transmitting back. So I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh no, my grandfather's so sad. What's going on? Why is he so sad? And then I realize why he's sad. And as I realize why he's sad, I try to comfort him. I'm like, grandfather, please don't be sad, you know? We'll be fine, you know? Don't worry about us. I love you. We love you. It's okay. You can go. You're free to go. There's nothing to feel sad about. And as I'm communicating this to him, as I finish communicating, all of a sudden his face changes. He brightens up, right? He's not sad anymore. And as his face changes, he slowly starts disappearing, okay? Until he's gone. And as he disappears, I wake up, okay? So yeah, that was, you know, you can imagine how I felt about that dream while I was there. Now you can think whatever you want, you know, you can say, oh, our minds are playing tricks, and you know, it's a coping mechanism, blah blah blah, all the psychology babble, okay? Well, I don't believe that way. Whatever this was real. It was spiritual, and I do believe that my grandfather was really trying to say goodbye to me through my dreams. Because I will tell the story after I finish the story of his passing. Anyway, let's get there, because this video is going to be so long, and I'm sorry guys, but like I said, this is for my kids mostly, so if you are not finishing this thing, that's fine. Okay, so before I had this last dream, okay, that day, we went to my grandfather's open casket to see him. But there was no casket, he was just on the table, and this wasn't anything fancy. We just went to the hospital to see him after they had embalmed, yeah, that's the word, embalmed him, and got him dressed and everything. So let me guys describe to you this place where my grandfather was placed, okay? Because this was a horror show. This place was atrocious. Okay, so public hospitals in my country, people don't want to go to public hospitals because they know that if they go, more likely than not, they're not coming out alive. No matter if you have a broken leg, a spleen rupture, whatever. 80%, okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but anyway, people, these places are horrible, okay? Because the government in my country does not want to invest into its people or into their health. So most people who have some kind of means, they will go to private doctors, private hospitals to address their issues, okay? But in my grandfather's case, when he passed away, he was taken to the public hospital and processed through this place. So we get to this building, right? Okay, it's a building that's adjacent to the main hospital. And as we're walking up to this building, we get out of the car, the parking lot, and right up against this building, next to this building, is a giant, and I mean giant, pile, big, beautiful pile of medical waste trash. Like a little mountain of trash, including needles, catheters, IVs, bandages, you name it, whatever hospitals tend to use. This was just thrown onto this pile into the open and created this big, beautiful sculpture of trash. Okay, so this is the scene you are met with as you're about to enter this room to view the dead. Okay, so you're already seeing death sculpture in front. Anyway, so that really stuck in my mind, just seeing that big giant, and I'm like, are we gonna be safe walking in here? Like, all these needles, like, what am I gonna be breathing in, you know? Those are the kind of thoughts that are going through your mind. So anyway, we come in front of this building, so now we're walking in, and it's basically, we're walking into a big giant refrigerator, okay? And now you guys wonder why I was a goth girl in my youth, okay? And still am a little bit. Because death was everywhere in my life. From the war to the burying of your grandparent, you know? So yeah, we walk into this building, big giant refrigerator where all the deceased are stored. And as we walk in, the first thing I see is a table with my grandfather on it. No casket, just like a cold metal table. So as I'm walking in there and I'm seeing my grandfather, first of all, I have no fear, right? I already know what this is. I'm fully aware he's passed away, so what's there to be scared of, right? My aunt, I remember, she stayed outside by that trash pile. Unfortunately, my aunt has passed away, and but I just remember her not being able to go in. She could not handle it. She stayed outside, and my mom, me, my dad, my grandmother, we all went in. I don't think my sister went on this trip with us. Yeah, she definitely didn't. She stayed with friends. So we get there, we walk in, I see my grandfather. Now we're all, because we have only a few minutes to do this, right? So we all walk up to him, kind of one by one, and now it's my turn, right? I'm not crying. I'm not feeling any emotion in particular except peace. Like I felt peaceful for some reason. You know, everybody else was kind of crying, you know, which obviously, in that moment, not yet anyway. As I walked in, no, I just saw him and I felt peace. He looked peaceful. And as I'm walking up to him, I can kind of see the state he's in, the pale skin. He looks waxy, like a doll, like a wax doll. And in that paleness, right, in that kind of, you know how candles have that kind of translucent state to them. They're white and they, you know, wax, translucent, that's the word. As I'm looking at his face, his eyes closed, he's got a little bit of a smile. All I can see is that he's kind of glowing, okay? So his skin, with this paleness and waxiness, had an effect of a candle, kind of like glowing, right? And this is what I'm trying to convey in my poem. So I walk up to him, I take his hand, I'm holding his hand, very, very, very cold hand, very cold hand. And I kind of see what he's wearing. He had his nice suit on that he wore to church, which once again I tried to describe in my poem. And I remember he had his watch. So for 20, 30 plus years, my grandfather worked as a coal miner. And when he retired, they gave him certain things. And one of these things was this watch that he had on him, that he was going to be buried in. And he also received a statue, which I'm so happy that I inherited. I still have it. Actually, I'm going to bring it to show it so my kids know exactly what it is, because it's in our house, but I don't think they know what it is. So this is the statue that he also received when he retired. And it's basically a coal miner with his axe and pixel holding a piece of coal. And it's got some damage. It's very heavy because it's iron. And it does have some damage. It used to be coated in this nice shiny stuff, but it's started peeling off. And but anyway, I'm very happy that I have this of my grandfather. And I gotta take care of it. I'm gonna leave it here for now. So yeah, I walk in there and I'm holding his hand and I see the suit he's wearing and his cap. He would always wear a cap. Blue cap at home while being with animals and stuff. And then this brown cap. My husband usually wears these caps too at the moment. He would wear that kind of cap to church and stuff. So yeah, that was kind of it. You know, after I was holding his hand, I then started feeling emotional and I was crying a little bit. And then the person who was there in charge, they told us, hey, you guys gotta go now. So we packed up and left. And then the next day, the funeral was held. And for some reason this day, I don't recall as well. I just recall being there, being sad, standing by his grave. There were a lot of people there because he was a beloved person. Because he was very kind to everybody and he was always helpful to everybody. And he never said no when somebody needed something. And he was also a man of faith. So people respected him in that way. So yeah, a lot of people were there and everybody was sad and crying, and we put him into the ground and that was it. We went home, grief continued. Everybody was kind of like facing the truth, and a few days later we came back to America. So yeah, that was the story of my grandfather's passing and his funeral. But before I end this video, I'm going to tell one more story, which happened the following year when I went back to Bosnia on my grandfather's 1-year anniversary of passing. And this time ties in with the dreams, where I believe that they were of spiritual nature, okay? As humans, I believe, as many people do, We're not just flesh and blood, we're spirit too. And we are little fragments of the divine. And our purpose in life is to be on this planet, have a human experience, live a good life, and hopefully by living a good life after our death, to be joined back with God. Anyway, that's what I believe. So after I went back a year later, I am sitting in my grandparents' kitchen in their house, and they had a window in the kitchen, and this window was facing this outhouse building where all the animals were living in. So cows, there were like two doors. One door had the cows and the pigs were kind of on this side, and then the other door was actually a shed, a storage shed, where my grandfather kept tools, and he spent a lot of time there, okay, when he was alive, because that's where everything that he needed was in there. And usually the door would be open, and you could always, through the kitchen window, you could see my grandfather tinkering with something, okay. But on this day, as I'm looking through that window, the door to that shed is completely closed, okay. So I'm under the assumption nothing's in there, right? The door's closed. How can anything get in there, right? And also that shed had a little window, okay? So a door here, and right next to it was a little window, okay? So I'm looking at the shed, okay, and at this little window, and now I'm feeling really emotional because it's where my grandfather used to be a lot. So as I'm sitting there and I'm looking there, in my mind, I am chanting again and again and again. I'm repeating, grandfather, I want to see you. 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 And as I'm chanting this, from the inside of the, so the doors, remember the door's closed. From the inside, a cat jumps onto the window. Okay, the cat is inside. There shouldn't be anything inside, okay? But the cat is inside. A cat jumps onto the window, turns to me, and stares into my eyes without blinking, just like this. Now you can imagine what I thought in this moment, okay? As I was chanting, grandfather, I want to see you, grandfather. So now I'm staring at this, like, where the fuck did this cat come? And it's staring me square in the eye. So we're staring at each other. And I'm like, grandfather, is this you? And the cat looks and then looks away and it jumps down. Now, everybody has, I mean, I have my own interpretation of this, what this is. I know it was my grandfather. And mind you, this was my grandfather's cat, okay? So this was his cat. He took care of this cat. He fed it. He used to feed it next to the shed. But the fact that this cat was in there with the door closed would not happen because, you know, anyway. So that's the final, what I believe, spiritual experience story about my grandfather. So yeah. And I think I'm going to end this video here because whoever makes it to the end of this video gets a trophy from me. But yeah, I'm enjoying this. I feel like I'm hanging out with a friend at the end of the day. And I don't know, I do want to become a better storyteller. I think I always kind of envied people who could tell a good story off the cuff, you know? And you would be like this, you're like, oh, you know? And I always wondered, how do they do that? Like, I mean, clearly they're intelligent, you know? But being a good storyteller is a gift, you know? But I think I think I've uncoded one aspect of that gift. What makes you a good storyteller? And I think it's when storytellers tell a story, they're fully present in that moment, in that story as they're telling it. So they have somehow learned how to block any other thoughts from entering the mind while they're telling that story. Because when you think about it, as we're talking, usually like other thoughts are like boom, 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 trying to get in and out. But they're able somehow to block that from happening. And because they're able to do that, they can zero in on this one moment, and they can tell it, execute it masterfully. And that's a gift. That's a gift. And I do also believe that that comes with age, you know, and especially experience, obviously, because it's what they call wise, being wise, you know. I would love to be wise when I'm an old lady. And I want to, if I ever have grandkids, I want to be able to capture their imagination like that, you know, by telling a good story. Okay, but now it's the end of this story. Until next Friday, my friends, have a good week. This weekend is going to be very special for me and my kids, so I still have to prepare for that. But until next Friday, bye everyone. Have a good one.